you have to search for a new set of rules.
Bread is of little use to the man who has betrayed his soul.
Maybe you're the protagonist in your story, but like there's a million.
Yes, sir. All right, welcome back, everybody, to Paradyme Podcast. We are shooting a shoot the shit film today. So today's topics, we're going to start a little mini series about what it means to be a great man or pursue greatness or pursue being a high value man. So who wants to start it off? Let's go through some topics.
I'll start first. Just go like boom, boom, boom. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I like it. So I think where to start off, a great quality in men. Definitely, we've kind of, before the video started, we kind of went through some topics, but a topic that I want to focus on is interdependence and independence. We talked about this a lot during 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. He focused on what independence first, finding yourself, finding what makes you great, finding what attributes you can attribute to society, to your culture, to your family, get your life in order, and then be able to work your way outside into the real world and be interdependent. Because a lot of people fail to realize that your independency is only successful when you can interact with other people. You can be independent your whole life, but not know how to communicate with others, know how to effectively get things done with other men or even other women. And that's a very, I would say, an attribute everybody needs to have.
Can you define what interdependence is for someone who isn't?
So it's just, we know what independence is. That's just by yourself, working alone. Interdependence is working with a community or working with a group of people. And if it's effective,
or just a person, it could just be
another person.
True.
It's just someone not just including you. It's someone else included with yourself.
And that definition came from, like Devin said, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I believe interdependence was being able to trust or work as a team, right?
Yeah.
Yes, I was going to say interdependence is being able to trust someone else to complete a task, to complete a common goal.
Yeah, like, and not foreshadow them, like and hover over them.
You can give you can give responsibility to somebody else.
Yep.
Yeah, that was a good one. And why do you think that's like a great topic for being someone who's a man who's a high value or pursuing some sort of level of greatness, or anybody, man or woman, to be honest?
Yeah, honestly, I it's not so much as why it's like why you need it. I think everybody has it to a certain extent. It's just some people fail to realize how to utilize independence. Some people abuse independence, and some people know how to use it effectively. But at the same time, it's just finding that balance. And why it's important is if it's work, if it's freedom, if it's fun, entertainment, if it's anything in life, if you can't do it alone, it's hard to do it with other people. For instance, if it takes you to go out and go to a library to start reading a book because you need other people around you to start reading a book, do you actually want to read, or are you just doing it to show other people, hey, I'm reading too, so I fit in, right? Instead of doing it for yourself, everything should be for you. Like, for instance, the gym, right? How many people go to the gym to say they're at the gym rather than to be there to be productive and actually work out and like, hey, I want to gain 20 pounds and be more fit and want to do this, rather than, hey, I'm at the gym. I went to the gym today. What'd you do today? Like, there's no need to. Go ahead, John.
Just speaking on the gym aspect, because it struck a chord with me.
Yeah.
Kind of sounds like a peer pressure type thing. That's why they're at the gym. But hey, if peer pressure gets you into the gym, it could become something else.
No.
So peer pressure is good. Good in certain aspects.
Yeah, I think I'm saying not the getting to the gym. It's more of like when you're at the gym, are you actually working out, or are you not just sitting on your phone and being like, oh, I was at the gym for an hour? You know what I mean?
Sure.
You're being productive at the gym. Like, peer pressure is fine in every sort of form. Peer pressure is actually sort of good. Obviously, we know it could be pushed too far sometimes, but at the same time, peer pressure could be a positive in that light. But when it comes to when you're at the gym and say you're supposed to be doing leg day, right? And I don't know, you're there with a group of friends or whatever, and maybe you've done one set on one machine and everybody's swapping back and forth, and you're kind of not really pushing yourself. You know what I mean? You're not really like in
Okay.
it. You're just there. You're just kind of hanging out, chilling like with your friends. Rather, if you're by yourself or maybe with a serious partner or a personal trainer and they were on you, like,
Right.
I need 3 sets out of you right now. We're not leaving the gym until you get these 3 sets in. You know what I mean? So
Have you had an example recently of sort of using that, or like how you use it on the daily, or maybe as an example for some of our listeners?
I would say recent. I would give I'm going to kind of give a more a further in the past example. Just the previous relationship, 8-year relationship, right? That dependence on someone else, not depending on her to be there, but the fact that I know that comfort level or that bubble's there. I don't really need to challenge myself so heavy. I don't need to push so hard, because when I'm in a relationship, I know I got that comfort. I got that, oh, well, she accepts me. I don't need to go so hard. I can go.
So you were saying that you weren't independent at that time?
Correct.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think it just takes, you realize, for me to recognize that, I had to be alone for a long time. And I don't recommend anybody to break up with their partner to find that out or anything like that. But it's the fact that within me, I couldn't recognize that when I was with her. I couldn't recognize that I was sort of depending on her for a happiness or for some sort of gratitude or some sort of value in my life. And then when she kind of stepped out of my life, then there was no other option. It was like, I need to find value of myself and like stay in my own path and find the value which is making me beneficial to society, rather than being like, I need a woman in my life. I want a woman in my life, and I need a woman in my life.
I think Jay, you wanted to say something?
Yeah. So I have a question for you. Why do you think it's important for a great man to be interdependent?
Oh, you can answer that. I'll keep it very, very simple. I think if anybody can't work with someone else effectively in a team, it's really hard to get anything done. You can be successful on your own. I'm not going to say it's easy, but it's a lot harder to achieve with other people, because not everybody can read your mind. It takes effective communication. It takes due diligence. You have to be accountable for other people. You have to be relied on. And you have to delegate tasks. If you don't know how to trust people, that's a problem. So
and they got to be able to trust you. To be interdependent, it's a two-way street.
Exactly.
You got to be dependable. And I would love the answer too, Jay, because I was just thinking, you think of any great man that's happened in history, they didn't do it alone. I love Alexander the Great. You think he conquered all of Europe by himself? No, he fucking got the best army in the world. Yeah. Genghis Khan. I know this is a fucking crazy one, but even fucking Hitler. You think Hitler started World War II by himself? You know what I'm saying? So anything that a man has accomplished that's been great has been part of a team. Thomas Edison had his famous workshop. There's anomalies, but still, a lot of great things that we think of. There was one guy at the top, but he was being interdependent with a lot of other great men.
I think that's mentioned too in the 7 Habits, right? He says like most great things happen due to interdependence, if I believe so.
And you can be a great man by yourself.
True.
I think there's a limit to what one man can achieve. I think there's a saying, 2 people really equals 3 people. So think of what you can accomplish when there's 3 people, not just yourself.
Absolutely.
Nice.
Okay. Follow up. So would you say independence or interdependence is more valuable, or are they subsequent where one needs to be achieved before the other?
I think they work like yin and yang. You can't get the other one without one. If one's missing, then it's hard to find the other. Especially if you're looking, I think if you solely depend on your interdependency, meaning you're looking for people to be in your life, and you're not independent, meaning you can't work or operate alone, that is, to me, in my own eyes, I think that's more on the edge of failure than if you were independent and didn't know how to be interdependent.
Well, I think you're getting interdependent a little bit mixed up with the word dependent, because you're making it sound like if you have to work with somebody, And that's just called being dependent on somebody. Being interdependent is like a positive. Being dependent normally comes off as a negative. So I think we should clear that up because those are two different things.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have any tips, Devin, as to like for our listeners how anybody watching could sort of break through being so independent and they actually see the benefits of trusting someone else to work and sort of work on their interdependence?
It's hard to kind of put that into perspective, like saying a tip based on experience, because at the end of the day, it is experience. You have to be able to work with people and find out that some people are not trustworthy, some people are not reliable, some people are really great at working it, some people aren't. So you just have to kind of experiment and test what you're good at, find out what you're good at first, right? That's kind of what I did, is found out where my strong suits are, where I'm strong at. So when I do come to the table with everybody else, I can easily spot out where someone's lacking and where I can be a strength. Like I can insert myself where that person's weak or where I'm weak. Hey, I'm not really good at this. I see that you're really good at this. Let's work together and kind of, you know what I mean? But the tip I would give is focus. Me personally, I like independence a lot more just because it helps you in that interdependent state when you have to work with other people. Not when you have to, but when you want to, or when you want to collab. Like this situation right here, the podcast, this is us coming together and bringing our minds on how we can adapt and change as men.
Right.
So I think independence is a very strong, and I think that's a lot stronger and more valuable than interdependence. So if you can find your independence and work on that and find your strong suits, your weaknesses, and really don't be ashamed of anything. When you go to work with people, mention it. You know what I mean? Some people find they sort of reward you for being acknowledgeable on yourself. If you can acknowledge the fact that you're not strong at something or you're weak at something, some people acknowledge that really, really well, like that. So,
real quick, Jay, what's up?
So kind of on the topic of independence and interdependence, I think it's worth noting that you can't truly be interdependent without first being independent yourself.
I would agree. I was waiting to say the same thing. I was like, I think it's a stepping stone.
Right.
Definitely, because in order to be interdependent, somebody else has to be able to depend on you to get your job done.
True.
And so you have to have some state of independence to where you can get things done on your own.
So just to clear up, because we kind of brought up before, interdependence is having trust on both sides of the party and accomplishing a great goal. Being dependent means you can't accomplish a goal without someone helping you. Being independent means you can accomplish a goal by yourself, proving that at least in a certain task, you're competent. So that person is able to rely on you. So they're like, then it's a collaboration. It's no longer being dependent because you can't do it alone, no matter what. And I think a stepping stone, being independent proves to your peers or even your competition that you're able to at least be competent in your problems in your life.
Yeah. True. All right. So moving forward, hop back in. So we just talked about being interdependent versus solely relying on being independent. And that's one quality of being a man who's pursuing some sort of high value or working on becoming a better person. And it's totally for a man or a woman. So moving forward, who wants to go next and talk about equality? Maybe Jay or John?
David, I think it's your turn. And then after that, it'd be my turn. And then Jay's to wrap it up.
Okay.
Right?
Cool.
I'm going to mute myself again.
Dope. Yeah, mute yourself. Mute yourself. So, in this series, I believe being time conscious or working on your time management is very important to be productive. And I believe it is a quality of just someone in general who is of high value or is able to produce or be on top of things. I think it's a really great thing to at least start now to work on your time management if you haven't. And it's just a great quality to have. why it's important, you know, I feel like I just kind of just said it. It's just important to make it to things, and it alleviates a lot of stress in your life, for one, and you get a lot done. I feel like people would be very surprised, you know, whoever's listening, if you worked on your time management, to see how much you could get done during the day and where you can make time out of no time. So we all have the same 24 hours in a day. Where is your time exactly going? And maybe start really analyzing why you aren't getting as much done as you want to get done. There's a lot of ways to sort of alleviate the stress of like, I don't have enough time. And it generally, go ahead.
Can I just jump in real quick before you get past this topic?
What's that?
With the time management thing too, I think one thing that helps is it alleviates stress or anxiety. If you have good time management, you kind of start setting blocks up and you're not feeling overwhelmed because you know that you have block A to do this and block B. And then once you start managing your time, I think some of that stress and anxiety may go away with better time management.
Right. It's sort of a win-win, I would say. You're also becoming someone who's very reliable, trustworthy. If you say you're going to be somewhere, you're going to be there on time. But you really don't have to worry so much about being on time if you really set yourself up with a schedule or routine, and it's not so stressful, right? It makes the day seem a little bit less stressful when things are falling into place where they need to go, and you don't have to worry about it so much. So I recently had something where this was a perfect example. Is I had an art show, right? I had my first solo show last week for Art Hop. It was 22 pieces. It was thank you. It was pretty stressful, I'm not gonna lie. I kind of knew that if I didn't set myself up and give myself enough time to purchase all the frames, finish my art pieces, wire everything, actually get the pieces over there and whatnot, it was gonna be pretty stressful, you know? It was gonna be.
And just so everyone knows, David also works a full-time job. It's not like this is all you have to do. He's also working a 40-hour work week.
Right. So I have projects I need to get done during the day at my regular job, and it was a little scary at first to take on this art show because I knew that I was going to have to make the time somewhere. And especially leading up to the show, what I did is, I knew I had to get stuff done, and I used this app, totally not sponsored by Things, but there's this app called Things that I downloaded and I paid for it. It's literally just a to-do list. You could set up your own to-do list. You could set up things you got to do, set yourself reminders. So that way, if you forget all these things, it just shows up on your phone. Boom, buy the frames. Boom, go drop this off at this time. And then I'll get a reminder. It's like I'm talking to myself from the future or something, you know, go do this because you need to make sure that this happens. And what I did is that with all the million things going on for the art show, I started off by just simply writing it down as soon as it popped up in my head. If I knew that I had to do this thing in order to achieve that, I would just type it into Things and make sure that if I need to do this at this time, I'm going to schedule it for this time, but give myself enough time to actually do that thing. So by 3:00, it's done. Make the reminder for 2:50. That way you have enough time to make sure that shit gets done by that time. So that's what I did to sort of stay productive through the art show. And I honestly surprised myself because I got a lot done. It was a weird feeling being that productive when all I had to do was write stuff down, set a reminder, stick to that schedule, and everything sort of fell into place. And as stressful as it was, as stressful and physical it was to move everything in, wire everything, talk to everybody, all the moving parts that needed to make it happen, at least it wasn't as stressful because I had a lot of time allocated for each individual task. So yeah, that's how that got done. And I think it's a great tip for anybody who's watching. It doesn't have to be Things as an app. It could be any other app, but as long as you know what you need to get done and write it down and at least set a reminder, you'll be surprised at how much you can get done just by doing that alone. So
something to just jump off of what you just said is that in 7 Habits, son of a bitch. Hang on a second.
It sounds like you turned. It sounds like you did a really good job of turning a boulder into a bunch of pebbles, David.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Chapter.
Yeah. That was our recent chapter for Catalyst, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
in the book 7 Habits, he talks about time management in more detail. I think it's a great thing to talk about. They'll read more about if you're listening. Something he does talk about is that the to-do list is actually kind of on the lower tier of time management. So, if this is already improving you now, he breaks down quadrants, quadrant 1, quadrant 2. I'm paraphrasing it.
Oh,
But,
yeah, I get you.
Yeah.
I sort of had to do something. Yeah.
He talked about how to-do lists are actually like on the lower tier of time management. How it ends up just being like a lot of things, and you're like, well, I crossed off 5 out of 7. I'm fucking doing good.
Yeah.
You're like, well, you needed to get 7 done. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you needed to get that one that was probably the most important or most urgent. And what I did too is I would
There you go.
make my list, right? I'd make my to-do list. And then first of all, how I'd organize those lists is say what is constrained by literal time. So I have to go get the wires for the show. Well, Lowe's is only open from this hour to this hour. So I had a time frame to where I could jump over there and make sure that I got those things done first. So whatever had the most constraints, that was the most urgent, like it needs to happen today, I'd put that at the top of the list and make sure that, work stuff got done first. But I had an open hour gap between my lunch to whatever. So make your to-do list. And like John said, I think it's a really great tip is organize your to-do list. What's most urgent, what's most important, and knowing the sense of urgency, because that's something else that's talked about in 7 Habits, right? Not everything you write down is necessarily important. It just feels it's urgent, right? Like I could get a phone call right now and it's urgent because I want to answer it, but is it really important right now? Knowing how to distinguish those two, I feel like would be a great way to at least set yourself up for productivity and moving forward, just overall having a less stressful life. So,
Yeah, agreed.
I have
I
a
also
question.
have an example.
Oh, go ahead, Jay.
Go ahead, Devin.
Oh, okay. So I wanted to ask a question. Because what I find is a lot of people, like the excuse that you said, is people will say that they don't have enough time. They don't know where their time goes. Obviously, time management will kind of solve that. Once you start to put things into place, it'll kind of figure itself out. But one thing that I've started to find out is not that people don't have enough time. It's people don't feel like doing specific things. It's because they don't feel like doing it.
oh yeah, that's that's like just
So
putting it off at that point.
what would you, for just a simple answer, like how do you get over like the feeling of not wanting to? Because I'm pretty sure you didn't want to do a lot of stuff during that time. But what was just like, obviously you had to get it done. No, there was no questions asked. But what was the pushing? What was the thing that got you moving?
It got me
Good
able
question.
to get over the
Your
not
feeling.
enough time or the
Your
feeling.
feeling.
The
A
feeling of not wanting to?
Yeah.
I kind of will just keep it short and simple. I wanted to make the art show happen. Like I wanted it pretty bad. So if I didn't want it that bad, I probably would have just put it off as something that wasn't important. And then all the to-do lists and the stress, like I kind of would have just shoved it away. But that's not what I wanted to do. I obviously wanted to make the art show happen. So I knew I had to get that stuff done. You got to really ask yourself if you want to do this thing, if I want to, I don't know, if I want to lose weight, if I want to eat healthier, if I want this job, if I want this and this, like really ask yourself, do you want it? Because we all have 24 hours. It's all the same time. And depending on what you do and set yourself up for will get you to that point. But ask yourself, do you really want that?
Yeah. Just to kind of link what Devin talked about and what you talked about, part of David's motivation is no one's going to do the art show for him. So that's part of being independent, right? Mm-hmm. And then he's also being interdependent because he's collaborating with the art show. So they need to be able to depend on him to fucking deliver. And if he doesn't deliver, they won't trust him anymore. So, he's got to be independent. And the fact that him being able to do it by himself, he's able to be interdependent with somebody that's given him a chance to show his art.
Right. And thinking quickly on your feet was something that actually, I'm not going to cover everything that went wrong during the show because, I don't want to take forever, but there's things that just popped up and I knew were going to happen. So if you allow yourself to know that if I do these things correctly and if I get this done, it'll get done. But allow yourself room because something usually always throws everything off. I went to the art show. The guy below me, he ended up using a ton of hardware to set up all of his art, and that left me short 6 or 8 pieces, and I was going to be in a point to where I couldn't even show the minimum required amount for the show. So I was like, okay, what do I do immediately after to sort of make this happen? I have to talk to Fresno Arts Council. I have to talk to the gallery tech. All of the moving parts, I know that's priority number 1. Everything on that to-do list sort of got shoved a little bit down, and the most important thing was, well, can I even show with these pieces? Do we even have enough hardware? So yeah, I get you. Just knowing your priorities.
Kind of going off of that too, Robert Kiyosaki has a quote, kind of going off of what Devin asked. It was like, how do you get over that voice in your head that says, I don't want to do it? Robert Kiyosaki has a quote where he says, am I listening to my mediocre mind or my inner genius? And that first one that pops up is typically your mediocre mind being lazy.
I love that. I love that because the first sentence makes me want to be better because I hate the word mediocre, you know?
Yeah.
So him saying that first, it already kind of gets me like, well, no, fuck that. You know, I think he did that on purpose.
Yeah.
Big
Oh,
facts.
yeah, definitely. And think about it. It will make you mediocre, right? If you just decide, and even beneath subpar.
Well, isn't
because
that,
you're deciding to be lazy.
This is kind of what we're all talking about. I mean, majority of the world is mediocre, you know? And even just trying to take a couple steps to be better than that will put you so much further ahead of somebody else. And just so we all know, you know, we're fucking mediocre, or we're trying to be better than mediocre, you know?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
We're still in
the world's a big place, you know? There's great people. So we're trying. So that's why we're reviewing these things.
Yeah, it's learning these things through reading, and we're just applying these things and watching what happens, right? It's like sort of an experiment.
Yeah.
That's why I said try it. Just try to make a to-do list, you know, try to be interdependent, see what happens. Anybody want to go next?
Example.
Oh, okay.
I have an example of how punctuality could be really beneficial for men and women. There's this person that came into the speech at Fresno State this summer for a geochemical study. And her name was Sua, and she is a PhD and teaches at UC Merced in California. And when she was going to her master's, she was one of the only students that showed up on time. And she was given a $5,000 scholarship because she was the only person that showed up on time. If you're there, you get more opportunity.
Ooh, yeah, that's a good one. You know, if you're early, like I think Devin used to tell me this, you know, if you're wait, what would you say? If you're on time, you're late.
Yeah. If you're on time, you're late. If you're early,
You're on time.
yeah.
Always be early. If you're early to something, right? Early to the interview, early to the show, you're competing with like the people who actually want it versus like people who don't want it. You already cut down half of the people because everybody's gonna show up on time, 5 o'clock, right?
Some of them might even show up late.
Late, yeah. Interview starts at 5. If you're there at 5, guess what? 30 other people were there at 5, and 100 people were there at 5:35. 10 people were there at 5:20, ready to
I
go.
think there's a rule you're supposed to show up 15 minutes early. We like learned that in our trade school when we go interview on like how to approach an interview.
True. Yeah.
That's right.
Moving on, do you guys want to? So we got Jay and John left with some traits they would like to talk about.
John, I have a question for you.
Yeah, what's up, buddy?
What habit, trait, or behavior do you think great men should embody? And why?
Okay. I think being able to be calm under stressful circumstances
Okay.
is a great trait to have. A lot of times when stressful things happen or things that come out from your blind side, we either get analysis paralysis or we'll freeze up or we panic. Worst case scenario, right? And the thing is that most times the thing that happened, it's not going to go away unless you fix it, you know? So panicking is just losing time. Analysis paralysis, you're just losing time. If you're panicking, you're not thinking straight, right? So I think being able to be calm. I think we talked about it in an episode or two ago about breathing techniques. With Gypsy Bean, actually, how sometimes something will happen. And I was actually putting together a bed frame, you know, it's something small. And I was getting frustrated because I broke something. and I wanted to freak out so bad. But what's going to happen? The bed frame still won't be put together, and I'll just be angry about it, right? So I did a little breathing technique and kept working on it, and I got it put together. So I think that's a great trait for great men to try to be, try to work on.
Mhm.
Definitely. Would you label this a skill?
Yeah, I would say it's like a temperament.
Okay.
I think some people are better at it just naturally. Whether they're just calmer.
Right.
But I think it's just like anything. It's a muscle you can work out and you can strengthen.
Yeah, it's your patience.
So, and just like any of these things we're talking about, I think of everything. Devin always talks about stuff as like a bar graph or something for skills and stuff. I think of everything as muscles. It's like, well, if you work it out, you'll get better at it. Are you working out that muscle? Are you working out punctuality? All that stuff. It just takes practice.
Even interdependence. You got to acquire that
totally.
experience. Like you're in a video game, got to level up a little bit.
Me just getting this new job at school, it's a lot of collaboration across classrooms and administrators, and I got it. Thank God that we've learned these skills, because I'm able to really start running. Instead of kind of being handicapped from the start. So
Yeah,
that's been
good.
great.
Definitely. Aside from breathing techniques, how else would you recommend people work out this muscle of being calm under pressure?
I think it's something you got to work on, and I think it's something you'll be in a situation, it's a situation you're in, and you just have to acknowledge that you can't freak out about it,
Mm-hmm.
because it's not going to go anywhere. I think things outside of that happening help me stay calm. For example, I stay physically active. I exert myself physically every day. So I think that keeps me calm in a right state of mind. Reading every day is a mental exercise, at least for me. So I think those two things help keep me balanced. So when things arise, it's not like it's the last straw and I'm ready to break, I think a lot of people are walking around on thin ice their whole life, and like something happens and like it's a catastrophe, right?
Yeah.
But like it's not a catastrophe. Like shit like that happens to me all the time. Like it's okay.
Yeah, I think I just want to add one more thing too, because I think John, with exerting yourself, but like just exercising, getting your heart rate going, getting your blood pumping, that relieves your stress. And then also reading, be able to sit down and for 15 to an hour, however long. If you can sit down by yourself for a period of time, you're practicing patience and in focus at the same time. And then a third one that I would say is just not just meditation, but it could be yoga. It could be if you can practice on sitting still for a long period of time. It doesn't have to be a long period of time. To some people, it's 5 minutes. It's an hour. So if you can get better at that, I think that helps train that muscle of patience or being calm under a very serious circumstance. But
and just to tie all the topics we talked about up until now, to be calm under pressure, you got to be independent. You got to be able to handle the situation that's happened by yourself. Time management, tying all that stuff in together. I'm able to work out and read because I've had better time management with my life recently, So I think all these things kind of tie together.
Yeah, definitely.
True.
All video is cut.
Yeah.
All videos are off. I don't see you.
Really?
What's up?
I still see you.
I see you.
I see you.
Okay, well, that must be me then.
656. All right, I'm gonna mark that down.
Yeah, definitely.
But
I can see that most men, men that I look up to that I see as admirable and of high quality are all very calm
true.
in stressful situations.
I would say to the listeners too, if you do have friends that are on time and that they're like the early birds or whatever, maybe kind of examine their demeanor or how they go about their life and see if you kind of want to be similar in a way. Are they successful? Usually people who are on time, I would say, are pretty successful.
Well, isn't that just a paradigm like we just talked about? These people, like the woman who just got the scholarship, she's successful. Why? Because she only showed up on time. I mean, and I'm not saying that's the only reason why.
Yeah.
But her getting the scholarship, one of the biggest factors was that she was the only one consecutively showing up on time. So she's just a step ahead of someone else who's not.
Definitely.
Big facts.
I'd agree.
About you,
All
Jay?
right. So I'll preface mine by saying I think it's important to know that all of these traits, habits, behaviors, qualities, whatever you want to call them, they coincide with each other. You work on one, you work on the other, and they're important to have as a group, right? You can't just be good at one and bad at the others and call yourself a great man. So for myself, one that I think goes really hand in hand with all of the topics and traits we've brought up today would to be a man of high honor or high integrity. I think it's important to be high in integrity, because if you say you're going to do something, it needs to be done.
Yeah.
If you say you're going to be somewhere on time, you need to be there on time. Your word needs to hold a lot of weight.
Right.
I think it's important too, because if you want people to hold you at a high esteem, they need to know that what you say is going to be done.
Yeah.
That's big facts. Do you have an example of that maybe recently?
In my life, I've observed this was kind of an interesting topic, because I had to look at the men in my life and look at traits that they have that I kind of hold at a high esteem. So one that comes to my mind is Waka. Waka has been a big inspiration in my life recently. And
Waka! I'm sorry, I couldn't help that.
No, you're good. But one of the things that he's always been really good about is being good with his word. So when he says we're going to do a mapping trip and that you're going to get things done, it gets done. And so for myself, one of the biggest traits and most admirable traits he's had is being of high integrity.
Interesting.
Do you guys have any examples of people being high integrity in your life?
Well, okay, never mind.
I was gonna say, I don't know how this can relate, but I watched a video on this, and it has something to do with demanding respect, and I think respect and integrity sort of flow hand in hand. But they were discussing on example was, you're not necessarily demanding respect in this sense, but when you separate yourself from a group or from friends or for family for a period of time, and you come back and you address people based on what they've not only achieved, but how they treated you in the past, or maybe things that they're looking forward to in life, or they're doing the same thing, moving in their job, or maybe it's their activity they're doing and they say stuff but don't really mean it because you see that nothing's changed and I've been gone for a period of time. You sort of start to demand a different level of respect. And I think the absence of you being in the presence of people sort of integrates respect and what was the word? Integrity. Because when you go away for a period of time, not saying that you're just leaving people out to like fend for themselves or anything, but when you decide to be independent for a little bit, like you just need that alone time. You need that time to be for yourself or to develop yourself in a better manner. And you come back to the situation, it not only gave you that clear-minded vision that you needed for anything that you're achieving in life or going through, but it also gave you a clearer path to how other people see you as well. Because when you're gone for a long time, I think it's more it's people can recognize why you do things for the reason you do them. You know what I mean? If you're stepping away for a period of time and then you're never coming back, like you never come back to the friend group or you never come back to your family circle, that's probably a clear indication that he just doesn't want, or she doesn't want nothing to do with us. But if they come back and give guidance and they come back and give respect and they talk in a different way and they move in a different manner, that's not only respect for that person, but it's respect for the people that they're coming back to. It's in sort of integrity. And so the conversation they were having sort of dealt with the thing that you're discussing is integrity is a very hard thing for people to accomplish because they think it's just you achieve a lot and people are supposed to respect you. But that's it. There's a lot more to it. It's the time factor. It's the independence. It's the how well can you handle pressure? It's all of these things. But when you're talking about respect for yourself or you're talking about respect for somebody else, it can go into, it's a very vast topic, but they were saying in that topic is when you separate yourself, the clear vision that you can have, or your mind's a lot more, it's capable of seeing how people see your integrity, how you see your integrity for yourself, because you're able to step away for a bit and you came back to the table with a stronger, more adequate, more capable mind. So I think what you're talking about, Jay, is kind of like pinpoint, like respect and integrity. I think every person on this planet should have.
Beautiful.
I agree.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I think something small that people can work on just to focus on integrity is to watch how you talk about other people when they're not around. Because how you talk about other people when they're not around dings your integrity in another person's eyes, and your own. It should.
Ooh, yeah, that's a good one.
I'd like to add, for me, a high value thing in integrity is not lying. That's where I draw the line with a lot of people. If you lie, I don't need you in my life. So
Bam.
even if the truth hurts, I'd rather get the truth than a lie, because at least I can trust you. So
Huge fact. Yeah.
so that's a big thing for me. I think someone who I honor their word, I respect their word. They mean more to me than what they've achieved or how they talk. Someone could be like a gutter mouth, but if he doesn't lie to me, like, I can trust him. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
There's levels to it, but that for me, that's the big thing.
I agree, 100%.
Well,
I think integrity, inside the envelope or umbrella of integrity, there's a lot of different things. And I think that's one of the biggest ones, John.
Yeah.
it's great. It's interesting how all these traits we found somewhat like of a connection of all four of them somehow, right?
Right.
Staying calm under pressure or go ahead, John.
Well, it makes sense. We're all giving examples of what we think. Hey, stop. We're all giving examples of what a great man should be. So it makes sense that they all kind of coincide with each other, like Jay had said, right?
Right. There's a bunch of scenarios where all of these sort of play a factor. Maybe it's a combination of all four of these combined at once somehow. And they're intertwined. It's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So I think for our listeners, or what were you going to say?
Go ahead, David. Go ahead.
I was going to say for our listeners, take these little concepts with a grain of salt, but really try and apply them and just experiment. Like I said, see what happens and starts to change in your life when you sort of analyze today. We talked about time management. We talked about interdependence, being able to trust those you work with in your life, being dependable. And then we talked about staying calm under pressure. And we also talked about having integrity and being honorable. What are those things? Where do they lie in your life right now? Which one of those areas could you sharpen? Take it with a grain of salt.
And if I had to pick out of those four, the two for me that are the most, I would say my foundation, what's concrete, which I hold the most value in, for what we just talked about, is the time management and the integrity, being a man of your word, the not lying thing. So if you got good time management and I can trust you, hey man, I can depend on you. We can go do things. I can help. I can give you tasks and help, and know that you're going to do them. You can give me tasks. I think I'll be able to work with you. We can collaborate. But for me, those are the two biggest things. Is this guy good with time? Can I trust him? And from that, I'm like, okay, you can be my friend. We can have a partnership. We can do a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
definitely. All right. I have a call to action for all listeners. Look at the men in your life that you find highly admirable, and look at the traits that they have and try to emulate them.
Right. Yeah, that's a good one.
Definitely.
That's a good one.
Definitely.
Is that wrapping up, everybody?
You guys ready to wrap it up?
I'm good. I'm solid. I feel like we could cover.
I think we covered. Yeah, I think we did some. This is a good one.
Definitely.
Go give me a Trojan. Go give me a Trojan.
I got the
it's time to
outro.
wrap it up.
Here we go. Classic John.
I got the outro.
All right.
right,
Yeah,
all
go
right.
ahead. Hit it off for us, Jay.
All right. Thanks for tuning in to Paradyme Podcast. This week, we talked about what traits, habits, and behaviors great men embody. I hope you enjoyed the show. Make sure you leave a comment. Drop it down below. What traits do you think great men have? We'd love to hear it. Maybe we could do an episode on them in the future. Like the channel, subscribe to the channel, and see you next week.
Maybe you're the protagonist in your story, but like there's a million other people.